Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Shall we start? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaya Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesham Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, welcome you all to the level 3 course of level 3 course, and today we are going to learn about the Ishopanishad sloka from 7 to 9. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Somebody can start reciting the sloka.
Mataji, shall I start?
Yes, ma.
Ishopanishad 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhuta vijanata tatra ko moha kashoka ekatva anupashyata. Translation. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Purport. Except for the Madhyam Adhikari and Uttam Adhikari discussed above, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living being. The living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, just as the spark of fire are qualitatively one with the fire. 8 sparks are not fire as far as quantity is concerned, for the quantity of heat and light present in the sparks is not equal to that in fire. The Mahabhagavat, the great devotee, sees oneness in the sense that he sees everything as the energy of the Lord. Since there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, there is sense of oneness. Although, from the analytical point of view, heat and light are different from fire, there is no meaning to the word fire without heat and light. In synthesis, therefore, heat, light, and fire are the same. In this mantra, the word Ekatvam Anupashyata indicates that one should see the unity of all living entities from the viewpoint of revealed scriptures. The spiritual sparks of the Supreme Whole, the Lord, possesses almost 80% of the known qualities of the whole, but they are not quantitatively equal to the Supreme Lord. These qualities are present in a minute quantity, for the living entity is but a minute part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. To use another example, the quantity of salt present in a drop is never comparable to the quantity of salt present in complete ocean, but the salt present in a drop is qualitatively equal in chemical composition to all the salt present in the ocean. If the individual living being were equal to the Supreme Lord both qualitatively and quantitatively, there would be no question of his being under the influence of material nature. In the previous mantras, it has already been discussed that no living being, not even powerful demigods, can surpass the Supreme Being in any respect. Therefore, Ekatvam does not mean that a living being is equal in all respect to the Supreme Lord. It does, however, indicate that, in a broader sense, there is one interest. Just as in a family, the interest of all members is one, or in a nation, the national interest is one, although there are many different individual citizens. Since the living entities are all members of the same supreme family, there are many different individual, their interest and that of the supreme being are not different. Every living being is the son of supreme being. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7.5, all living creatures throughout the universe, including birds, reptiles, ants, aquatics, trees, and so on, are emanations of the marginal potencies of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, all of them belong to the family of the Supreme Being. There is no clash of interest.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Before we
Hare
proceed further, I just wanted to tell. So, in continuation to the last sloka, here he says, a person who wanted to seek the spiritual knowledge, he sees each and every individual soul as an opportunity, as a spark, that is a rough stone for him to get sharpened and know each and every living entity in a better way. Okay, so except for Madhyamadhikari and Uttamadhikari, if you remember in the previous class, Madhyamadhikari are the one who differentiate people between the ordinary people, the devotees, the people who are innocent, and people who have a knowledge about the Lord and the Lord himself. Whereas Uttamadhikari are the one who sees everyone with an equal vision. But so apart from these two people, nobody can see the other individual as a on the same spiritual plane, like Brahmani Gavi Hastini, I will say. The learned person will see everything with the same thing. So, and here analogy has been compared to that of an salt of the ocean, as we all know that the ocean water is a salty, but if you take one part of the ocean and analyze the salt, the composition will remain the same, whether it's in a single drop or it's in the entire ocean, like any portion of the ocean also. So similarly, the energies of Lord are the same, whether it is there in one living entity or it is there in different living entities. Okay, but all of them belong to the same, because he is the seed giving fathers for all the 84 lakhs species. So there is no doubt about it. Yeah, you can continue, ma'am. Yeah, Meher, you wanted to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, you can read next two paragraphs.
Okay, Mataji. A godless
Spiritual
civilization.
entities. No. Spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment.
Okay. The spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12. Ananda Mayo, Riyasat. By nature and constitution, every living being, including the Supreme Lord, and each of his parts and parcels, is meant for eternal enjoyment. The living beings who are engaged in the material turbulence are constantly seeking enjoyment, but they are seeking it on the wrong platform. Apart from the material platform is the spiritual platform, where the Supreme Being enjoys himself with his innumerable associates. On that platform, there is no trace of material qualities, and therefore the platform is called Nirguna. On the Nirguna platform, there is never a clash over the object of enjoyment. Here, in the material world, there is always a clash between the individual being, because here the proper center of enjoyment is missed. Real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of sublime and the spiritual rasa, dance. We are all meant to join him and enjoy life with the transcendental interest and without any clash. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest. And as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion, moha, and lamentation, shoka. A godless civilization arises from illusion, and the result of such a civilization, lamentation. A godless civilization such as the sponsored by the modern politicians is always full of anxieties, because it may be crushed at any point, at any moment. That is the law of nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, no one but those who surrender at the lotus feet of Supreme Lord can suppress the straight laws of nature, strength law of nature. Thus, if we wish to get rid of sort of illusions and anxiety and create unity out of all diverse interests, we must bring God into all our activities.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So here,
Hare
these two paragraphs mainly emphasize upon the karma which we have to do as a service towards the Lord. We should not do any karma to please our senses. When we keep him as the center of attraction and everything is centered around him, there is no question of illusion or any lamentation. And there is no anxieties, or we are not under any illusion also. Okay, the only aim is to surrender onto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead and just do our services. That is one way to get rid of any sort of a bad karma. Yeah. Next step. Kritika.
The result of our activities must be used to serve the interest of God, Lord, and not for any other purpose. Only by serving the Lord's interest can we perceive the Atmabhut interest mentioned herein. The Atmabhut interest mentioned in this mantra and the Brahmabhut interest mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 18.54 are one and the same. The Supreme Atma or Soul is the Lord Himself, and the minute Atma is of the living entity. The Supreme Atma or Paramatma alone maintains all the individual minute beings, for the Supreme Lord wants to derive pleasure out of their affection. The Father extends Himself through His children and maintains them in order to derive pleasure. If the children obey the Father's will, family affairs will run smoothly, with one interest and a pleasing atmosphere. The same situation is transcendentally arranged in the absolute family of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Spirit. The Parabrahman is as much a person as individual entities. Neither the Lord nor the living entities are impersonal. Such transcendental personalities are full of transcendental bliss, knowledge, and life eternal. That is the real position of the spiritual existence, and as soon as one is fully cognizant of this transcendental position, he at once surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, Sri Krishna. But such a Mahatma or great soul is very rarely seen because such transcendental realization is achieved only after many, many births. Once it is attained, however, there is no longer any illusion or lamentation for the miseries of material existence, or birth and death, which are all experienced in our present life. That is the information we get from this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, we should not be doing any activity which pleases our senses. So, all our activity should be centered around pleasing the personality of the Godhead, that is Lord Krishna. Okay. So, but who will get this opportunity to it? It's saying it is very easy, but people, after many lives, as we have discussed yesterday, one get an opportunity to know about the Lord, to do the service of the Lord. So we are all fortunate enough to be in the Krishna consciousness. We got this golden opportunity to know about the knowledge about the Lord, which was told by Lord Himself. So like that, once that what do you say, the facility from Lord comes to invoke that spiritual nature, or that ignition to know about the Lord, when it comes inside, it becomes easy for us to know, because He Himself is the giver of the knowledge. He is the giver of the forgetfulness. Okay, He is the one who can guide us. So we should, when He give that knowledge to know about Him, then automatically we will go on in a right path, and we will never try to engage our senses apart from serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, so that's how, once we are in that path, then definitely He will take us from the misery of cycle of birth and death, and we can go back to our God, our home, that is back to Godhead, Goloka. Yeah, we can continue with next sloka. Yeah, Kritika, you can start, ma'am.
Ishopanishad 8. Saparagyacha Chukti. Mataji, what? Please read. Saparyaga Chukra Akayam Avrandam Ashnaviram Shuddham Apapavidham Pravir Manishi Paribhuha Swayambhur Yathat
Yathat tayo tayato
अर्थेतो अर्थात व्यदधात शाश्वतीभ्या समाभ्य. Translation: Such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without whence, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. Purport: Here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entities in this world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material machine. The anatomy of material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth, but the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul, nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature as we are. In materially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, body, and he himself are all one and the same. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described there Satchit Ananda Vigraha, which means that he is the eternal form, fully representing his transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind, as we do in material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours and that he is devoid of a form we can conceive of. In the Brahma Samhita 5.32, it is further stated that with each and every part of his body, he can do the work of the other senses. This means that the Lord can walk with his hands, accept things with his legs, see with his hands and feet, eat with his eyes, etc. In the Shruti mantras, it is also said that although the Lord has no hands and legs like ours, he has a different types of hands and legs by which he can accept all that we offer him and run faster than anyone. These points are confirmed in the 8th mantra through the use of words like Shukram, omnipotent.
Yeah. I think, description of the absolute personality of the Godhead. See, a person who is a devotee and who is engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord can perceive the energies of the Lord, which is in and around, because of omnipresent and omnipotent and everything, each and every living and non-living entity is there within him. There is no, not even a single particle in the universe which exists without the involvement of the Lord. So he's the complete whole, and he is the same mind, body, and he himself all is. He is a complete, like we have discussed in our initial slokas of Isopanishad, and as per Brahma Samhita 5.1 also, the similar description is been given about the separate personality of the Godhead Sri Krishna, that he is a Satchidananda Vigraha, that is eternal form, which is representing the transcendental existing and the knowledge and bliss about the Lord. Okay. And he's like we assume him in a personal form and we worship him in a personal deity form and all those things, but he can take any form, and he can use, like, he cannot be, because he's all made up of a spiritual body. It's not like a material body like what we have. So but at the end everything is purnam, that is, it's all full. We can't make a comparison with him, the material and the spiritual body. So everything is inclusive of him. Yeah. Meher, you can read next.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
The Lord's worshipable from Archa Vigraha, which is installed in temples by the authorized acharyas who have realized the gods in the term of Mantra 7. Is non-different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna expands himself into unlimited number of forms, such as Baldeva, Rama, Nrsimha, and Varaha. All of these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha worship in the temple is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archa Vigraha, one of the one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the service of a devotee by his omnipotent energy. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of acharyas. The holy teachers and works exactly in the original way of the Lord by virtue of the Lord's omnipotence. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Isopanishad or in any of the other Shruti mantras consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotee, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanistha adhikaris. But such people do not know the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, scientist, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.1112, the Lord regrets the fallen condition of men with little knowledge who desire uh, deride, okay, who deride him because he descends like a man into the world, this world. Such poorly informed person do not know the omnipotence of the Lord. Thus, the Lord does not manifest himself in full to mental speculators. He can be appreciated only in proportion to one's surrender to him. The fallen condition of the living entities is due entirely to forgetfulness of their relationship with God.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So
Hare
here
Krishna,
this two paragraph says about the Archa Vigraha of the deities which are there in different forms in different temples, those are nothing but a representation of a God, and they have the same energies of the Lord, because as our 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita says, he is present in each living and non-living entity, isn't it? So whatever form it may be, whether it's Sri Krishna or expanded forms like Baladeva, Lord Sri Rama, or Lord Narsimha or Varaha Avtara or anything, it's the energy is the same as that of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. Only people who are not devotee, they can't understand that, and they say these are just made up of material elements. Similarly, a person who has no knowledge about the Lord or Vedas and who have little knowledge also, they cannot understand the omnipresence of the God, and yeah, and they try to do some mental speculations, and definitely we can't help these people unless they willfully wanted to surrender onto the Lord. Then yes, it becomes easy for them to revoke that forgetful relationship with that of the Lord. Yeah, Kritika, you can continue, ma.
In this mantra, as well as in many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from the time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualification, but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of high court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post, but it must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to the living entities in proportion to their qualifications, but good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required. Ordinarily, the living being does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which post to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, however, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings, under the influence of material nature, ask for many other things, and they are described in the Bhagavad Gita 2.41 as having divided or split intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30 and 31, it is stated that those who are captivated by the temporary beauties of external energy forget the real aim of life, which is to go back to Godhead. Forgetting this, one tries to adjust things by various plans and programs, but this is like achieving what has already been achieved. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that He allows the forgetful living entity to continue in this way without interference. Thus, This mantra of Shri Upanishad uses the very appropriate word yatha,
Yatha tat yataha.
yatha tat yatha, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entities just in pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to do so without interference. And if he wants to go back home, back to Godhead, the Lord helps him. God is described here as Paribhu, the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who ask God goods from the Lord. The Lord supplies the things that living entities desire. If the entities were equal to the Lord's in potency, if they were omnipotent and omniscient, there would be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. Real liberation means going back to Godhead. Liberation, as conceived of by an impersonalist, is a myth, and begging for sense gratification has to continue eternally unless the beggar comes to its spiritual sense and realizes his constitutional position. Only the Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on earth 5000 years ago, he displayed his full manifestation as the personality of Godhead through his various activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons, such as Aghasur, Bakasur, and Shakatasur, and there was no question of his having acquired such powers through any extraneous endeavor. He lifted Govardhan Hill without ever practicing weightlifting. He danced with the gopis without social restriction and without reproach. Although the gopis approached him with a paramour's feelings of love, the relationship between the gopis and the Lord Krishna was worshipped even by Lord Chaitanya, who was strict sannyasi and rigid follower of disciplinary regulations. To confirm that the Lord is always pure and uncontaminated, Sri Ishopanishad describes him as Shuddham, antiseptic, and Apapavitham, prophylactic. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing can become purified just by touching him. The word pro- prophylactic refers to the power of his association. As mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30 and 31, a devotee may appear to be Sudurachara, not well behaved, in the beginning, but he should be accepted as a pure because he is on the right path. This is due to prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. The Lord is also a Papavitham because sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good, for there is no question of his being affected by sin, because in all circumstances he is Shuddham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing powers. If the sun, which is a material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of all-powerful Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here, yeah, God. So whatever we ask for, Lord, He will give us. You know, but if we ask for the wrong thing, also He will give us. If we ask for the right thing, also He'll give us. He's so kind enough. But doing bhakti for Krishna is the liberation. We don't want any material bondage, isn't it? A learned person will know about it, and he will not ask anything and take whatever the good and bad and happy and distressful situation given by Lord, he will accept with a smiling heart. Similarly, and God is described here as Paribhu, that is greatest of all. No one is any equivalent to him also, and he's above everyone, so at the same time, we have been discussing his omnipotent and omniscient, and only thing which can help us is the liberation from the cycle of birth and death. So we must not beg him or ask him for any desire. So we can just engage our senses in the service of the Lord, and that is the one way to get relief of this shackles of cycle of birth and death. Okay, and if you go by the last paragraph, here different rasas and different pastimes of Lord is been described. Okay, when Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago on this planet, and many pastimes were described in the, I think if you're reading the Krishna textbook, you'll have the Krishna book, and as well as in detail, it has been given in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where he has killed many demons like Agasura, Bakasura, and Putana, many Kalia. There are so many stories of his pastime where he has every pastime has one significance, and no normal human being or any person with any other supernatural power, not even a demigod, could do such things. So if you take an example of lifting the Govardhana hill, I think you know the story when Indra was annoyed with the people of Vrindavan, he will downpour and there will be a lot of rain to protect the Rajavasis. Lord Krishna will lift the Govardhana hill on the tip of his little finger for about a week or so, and all the people who are under the shelter of Govardhana hill will be feeling satiety, that they will not have any hunger or thirst or any sort of thing, and they are all well protected. After a week, when Indra realizes that he was under illusion and he's thinking himself very great than Lord Krishna, he comes to Krishna and he come to his rescue, and he asks him to forgive the mistake he has done under illusion. So such are the energies of the Lord. Okay. At the same time, if you know the Lord Chaitanya's avatara in the Kali Yuga, he just wanted to what do you say? Who was a strict sannyasi and who was a rigid follower of a disciplinary regulation. And Lord Chaitanya is nothing but the Lord Krishna himself is a Gupta avatara, and he has come to revoke this moment. At the same time, he wanted to approach enjoy the worship like how gopis have towards Lord Krishna, and rest is the history what we have now. And the Lord is also been described here as a Shuddham, that is antiseptic, and Apapa Vidham, that is prophylactic. So these are the quite medical terms which is being used here. That means one is healing and second is prevention. So both is Lord Krishna. So if we are under the protection of Lord Krishna, say suppose if we have not so purified, all of us are in the process of purification. So our impurities are being removed like Shuddham by as antiseptic by Lord. At the same time, if we are in that process, prophylactically he is helping us by not falling into the trap of all these man-made disasters. So, and his protection is in such a way, say suppose here the analogy is being taken that of the sun, when the sun comes, all the moisture evaporates. So after the good rain and all, if the scorching sun is there on the and you can see everything which is so wet and all will dried up by some time, isn't it? So such is the powerfulness of a Lord's energy. So this is very hard, and when we try to imagine this goes on a longer time, it takes a lot of time to understand the energy of the Lord. So he is so powerful and he's so omnipotent omnipresent and omniscient, that everything emanates from him, and we should be willing. Our consciousness should be awakened, and we should be willing to surrender onto the Lord, and automatically he will take care of everything what's needed for us and take us in the path of a bhakti. Okay. Hare Krishna. Shall we end for today? Any questions?
No questions, Mataji.
How much is ninth one? Is it a little bit more? Yeah. Shall we do
Mataji, total how many shlokas are there in
18?
Shri Krishna?
18.
Okay.
So 2 more weeks are there for us to complete this. Okay.
And after that?
We'll start with the nectar of devotion.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'll just explain it. I'll read and explain it, this one, rather than people reading. Is it okay?
Okay, Mataji.
You can read the sloka, ma. You can read the sloka and translation. Rest purport, I will explain.
Rishabhnishad wise. Andham tama pravishanti ye avidyam upashate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayu vidhyayam rata. Translation. Those who are engaged in the culture of nascent activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So this translation says people who are engaged in the culture of nascent activities, that means not knowing about the knowledge about the Lord and doing all things in prohibited, then these people are definitely going to go into the darkest region of ignorance, and worse are the people who are engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. What exactly this tells you, we will describe here in the next coming this thing. Yeah, Hare Krishna, just give me a minute. So this mantra offers a comparative study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya means not having a knowledge, also called as an ignorance, and Vidya is having a knowledge about the Lord. Now here knowledge is completely with reference to the Vedas and the knowledge about the Lord. So Ishopanishad is more applicable today at any point of time in the past. And yeah, when you see today's education about all material things, okay, and but not about the spiritual enhancement. Whereas as far as the Vidya is concerned, that is education or knowledge about the Lord is concerned, the first mantra clearly explained about Lord is complete, isn't it? He's the proprietor of everything, and once we forget our relationship with Lord, that is a pure ignorance. So by engaging our senses, it is one way to revoke our relationship with the Lord and to get educated. So different classes of men, the karmis, jnanis, and yogis are there. So karmis are the one who always engage in activities of a sense gratification. And I think in day civilization, you see 99% of the people who are engaged in such activities of sense gratification, isn't it? So whether you see industrialism, economic development, and everything. So these are more or less based on the satisfaction of the senses, and there is no God consciousness in this. But if you go by Bhagavad Gita 7.15 chapter, here 4 type of foolish people have been described, that is mudhas. So and yeah, and people who are engaged in profitless pursuit of sense gratification are simply they are not having any knowledge about the Lord. Okay. Yeah. And any sort of advancement, whether material advancement, whether they are building they are taking a bigger degrees, or they're having a wealth or they are getting a fame or any sort of opulences which are native of the Lord, if they are they are possessed by these people, it is as dangerous as having a valuable jewel on the hood of the cobra. See, the analogy here is taken out of the cobra and the valuable jewel. Okay. And as per Haribhakta Shubhodaya, that is 3.11.12, the advancement by education by the godless people is compared to the decoration of the dead body. So how much ever you decorate the dead body, it is all waste because that's going to be cremated in the next coming few hours or so, isn't it? In this way, materially, if how much ever we are getting advanced, but if you're not God conscious, everything is a waste. That means indirectly we are working towards the sense enjoyment. So that in turn is taking us to the darkest regions of ignorance. And yeah, as per Bhagavad Gita 2.42 and 7.15, yeah, the mundane educators are also known as Veda Varta Vrata or Mayaya Pahrata Jnanaha. So these are like aesthetic demons, and they are the lowest, that is Mudhas, also called as Mudhas, the lowest of the mankind. And they themselves, the philosophic speculators, the scientists, and all those people, and they have a knowledge about one particular subject, but they don't have a Purna knowledge, that complete knowledge about the Lord. So such a advancement is a waste. Yeah. As per mantra 1, one should know the personality of the Godhead is proprietor of everything, and we must be satisfied with our whatever allocated portions, which are the necessities of the life. This is all is Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness and establish our forgetful relationship with the God and revoke that relationship with the God, and ultimate aim is to go back to the Godhead. Okay. And yeah. So these people, they don't comply or they don't listen like what exactly is written in a Vedic literature, and they have their own ways of doing it. Like you can say one sort of impersonal bhakti also, and some people are not bhakti type, but they are totally materialistic, and they have their own rules and regulations to go, and they go by it. Okay. And similarly, yeah. So another word called Vidyayam, which refers to the study of Vedas, such as Vedas, which are origin of all knowledge. Okay. And there are a set of people who are coming in a disciplinic succession, and who are also called as the great acharyas like Prabhupada and all. Okay. So they continuously study this Vedas, and they pass it on to the in a disciplinic succession to the disciples and so on. Okay, so unless we have that Guru Parampara and we don't follow that, it is difficult for us because we try to interpret, because we are not a pure souls, and whatever mode we are in, then we try to perceive that in the same mode. So it is always to read, because so many foolish people are there who don't comply with what is written, and they have their own ways of. So whatever the pure essence which has been given by the Lord in the form of a Vedanta Sutras, the Vedic literature, if we wanted to imbibe that, because the ultimate purpose is to know about the Lord. So that has to be taken through a proper Acharya who is coming in a disciplinic succession. It becomes easy for us to understand and assimilate and help us to go back to our Godhead. Okay. Yeah. In this, one more class of men is been described, that is Mayaya Pahrata Jnana, which are self-made gods. I think many such people are there in the day in and day out community. But again, these are another type of mudhas or ignorant people who don't have about the knowledge about the Lord, and they are forgetful about the relationship with the Lord, and they are entrapped by the Maya, and they have their own illusion energy. Okay. So these self-made gods cannot answer all the questions very clearly. Say, suppose if you are stuck, generally people, when they give the first copy of Bhagavad Gita, they say, if you have any question in your mind, if you're stuck somewhere, Just open any page of Bhagavad Gita and it will give you the answer. Okay, such is the knowledge about, because it is coming in a disciplining succession. It is told by the God himself. But if you go by this, people who are self-made gods and all, they may answer anything related to material things, but not something related to the spiritual knowledge or about the self-discovery. So in Krishna consciousness, it is one good thing is that it's all about you getting purified from within. Nothing, an outsider has got nothing to do with you, because you're under a protection of an acharya who is coming in a disciplining succession, and he's giving the entire rasa of the Vedanta Sutra, which is being told by Krishna to Narada, and through different disciplining succession is coming through different acharyas. So that is how we can be relieved from the cycle of birth and death, and go back to the Godhead, and we need not come here. So rest of the people who are engaged, let it be an educator or an environmentalist or philosophers or a top university professors or a dean or whatever it is, any job or profession which is materialistic, they cannot answer to the real knowledge about the self-discovery, about the soul, or the knowledge about the Lord. So these things, though we are in the material world where we have to gauge all these things, but one point of time we have to analyze whether all this is literally helping us or towards going towards the Lord, or is it taking away from the Lord. So these things has to be kept in mind, and we have to analyze ourselves, and we should try to engage with the people who help us to move towards the God and its service. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hope I simplified it. Any questions?
No,
Hare-
Mataji.
It's quite difficult topic for me also. Yeah. Next week we'll try to complete 6 more slokas, I think. Possible. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Mihir, any questions from your side?
No, Mataji.
Okay. So we will close for today and we'll resume next weekend on Saturday. Okay. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yeah, thank you participants for your active participation. See you all next weekend. Hare Krishna.